एक ओंकार सतनाम करता पुरख निरभਉ निर्वैर अकाल मूरत अजूनी सैभं गुर प्रसाद जप आद सच जुगाद सच है भी सच। चेक। एक ओंकार सतनाम करता पुरख निरभਉ निर्वैर अकाल मूरत अजूनी सैभं गुर प्रसाद जप आद सच जुगाद सच है भी सच नानक होसी भी सच। वाहिगुरु 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 जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह। नानक सहज मिले जग जीवन नदर करो निस्तार। Good evening, welcome back to the In the Code live stream. Oops. Okay, this is December 29, 2024, 9:11 p.m. and in today's documentation session we're doing two things primarily. One is we're documenting how to make coins rain inside Blender with the texture that you want, right? Whatever coin texture it is that you want. And I'm going to try and make it in such a way that it is extremely beginner friendly. So essentially what I'm trying to do here is, if you've never opened Blender in your life, like this is your first ever thing you're doing inside Blender, you should still be able to follow along and make something, I mean, like, get pretty close to what I'm showing, because it's very simple. It's like just pressing a few buttons here and there and understanding some fundamentals related to the beautiful 3D software package that Blender is. And secondly, I want to document a little bit about how to have the paper crumple effect in After Effects, which you can use as a fancy little transition. This is something I've been working on, a project that I want to document. So with that out of the way, once you launch Blender, this is how your interface looks. I'm using Blender 4.1. The latest is, I think, Blender 4.3. I don't know, I still haven't updated because I never feel the need to. 4.1 has everything. A few of the things, if you're using a version before 4.1, which you do not really have reason to, but if you are, a few things here and there will be different. So use a version which is like at least 4.1. Above 4.1 is completely fine. Okay, this is how it will look by default. And firstly, I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and you see this thing here, this crosshead, you're going to drag here and bring it out. So what this does is it splits the window into two. Okay, and over here, I'm on the left side, I'm going to put my camera, and on the right side I'm going to have my viewport. At the moment, let's just not worry about it. Right click here and join areas. I'll just first do the coin part. Okay, yeah, because I loaded factory settings, it's a bit wacky. So primarily what I'm going to do is I'm going to change a few things. CUDA, navigation, orbit round selection, depth, perspective, zoom to mouse position, invert wheeled, invert mouse, yeah, that. And I also know it's a little too, I didn't know the Blender preferences get reset every time you load factory settings. As like, because I'm trying to make it a beginner friendly tutorial, I just reset factory. Like over here you come to find file, defaults, load factory settings. I just wanted the startup file. Anyway, it's a little too much yet. Save. Yeah, this is good. So a few things I did, I changed these preferences like I like them, so you can screen grab this and if you want to replica them. Anyway, that's not important. What you want to do is you want to make coins rain, right? And that's the important thing. You want to have a texture of your own. Now this process I'm going to show inside Photoshop. However, you can do it in any software. You can even do it in Canva, any free online program like photop.com. It's beautiful. It's basically a replica of Photoshop, but it's free and it's on the internet. I'm going to do it here inside Photoshop because I'm a little privileged that way. I'll make it kind of like yellowish. This is our base. We can take whatever color, doesn't matter. Primarily we need the logo, right? Because I'm going to put that on the coin. I'm going to drag the Blender logo here, and you will put your texture here, whatever it is, and I'm going to bring it here, save it. I'm going to come in here and save this as a JPEG. I'm saving it at 2400, so it's big enough for it to be nicely visible on the coin. Okay, whatever software you're using, just save it in I say coin underscore blender, saving it as a JPEG. Okay, and I'll keep this open here. Now I'm just gonna keep it handy. Okay, first things first, you don't need to worry about anything here. Select everything with X to delete. This is usually something which everybody does, so might as well do it. What is a coin? A coin is basically a cylinder, and when we want to model things inside of Blender, we want to look at objects and we're going to try to simplify them into what is the primitive shape that would closest represent this object, and then we get into more and more complexities. So for a coin, it's a cylinder. You say Shift A, mesh, and add a cylinder. Okay, once the cylinder is in, before you do anything else, right, you want to come and open this box here. That's your operations menu. I don't know what it's called, operation menu. Importantly, this 32, you want to change this 32 to a higher number like 128. So basically what this does is it's the number of vertices you have on your cylinder. So right now it's looking a lot smoother. Like, let me go back and show you. At the beginning it was like this, so it is a little jagged. If you see, it's jagged, and that will make our coin look not good. So you want to have more vertices here, and it will make it smoother. So make it 128 and hit enter. Now we can come out, like we can do something else. This will still remain until I do another operation. So that's your last operation menu. For anyone who's live right now, if you can hear the audio and you can hear the video, please send it in the chat, like just a hi or anything, because it helps. Yesterday I did an entire stream and the audio was off, so I couldn't really use that. That's really appreciated. If you can just drop a hi in the chat, that would be nice. So once you have the cylinder, now you want to make it look like a coin. So this doesn't look like a coil. Now what you want to do is you want to hold the tilde key. Tilde key is the key above your tab button and the key below your escape button. If you hold down tilde, it brings this pie menu, and this is very important, right? Pie menus inside Blender. With the tilde key hold down, you go to front, back, top, right. So you're going to take your mouse here, it goes to the front view. Okay, and if you just middle mouse, it will just go to your perspective. Now I can't keep explaining every single thing because I won't be able to finish the live stream in that case. Let's just keep it to the fact that you know a little bit of Blender and you want to like make the coin part, the coins rain. So we say RX 90. Okay, that's going to rotate it in the X direction 90 degrees. I'm going to come into edit mode by pressing tab and say SY to scale it in the Y. So this kind of resembles your coin. Okay, my sensitivity is still a little too high. How do you okay, I guess this is good. Okay, now this is done. We are almost like a little bit in our, like, let's say 20% done. Now you put a texture onto this. With texture, you want to remember this little formula, that what we have is an object is a mesh. Okay, a mesh requires a material, and a material requires a texture. And this is how your workspaces on the top is arranged as well. So texture goes into material, material goes into mesh, mesh is what makes up your object. So if you come in here into your outliner, you see cylinder. This cylinder right here with this green icon, this is your mesh, and this cylinder with the yellow icon is your object. Okay, you see the yellow outline here, that's what is represented by the object, and this green color thing is your mesh. Okay, so now to this object we have this mesh. To this mesh we need a material and we need a texture. So how do we do that? Let me remove this. Okay, now as I said at the top, you see these workspaces. They are arranged in such a way that you can use it to do exactly what I just showed. So we're gonna first UV unwrap this. Okay, because this is a primitive, you will not need to UV unwrap anything. You go into view editing and you will get something like this. So this is basically a representation of your basically your 3D object opened up like a cardboard into 2D. So if you select this button at the top here, this is called sync UV selection. What this will do is when you click here with, let's say, face select, click here, the face which is corresponding there will also get selected. So this is your front face. this is your back face, and this here is everything else. So if I do Control I, this is your ring around the faces. Okay, now we just need to apply the texture somehow. Again, I'm going here front with the pie menu. So how do you do that? We're gonna go into the shading tab. Okay, once you're here in the shading tab, and the way I like to do this is I'm gonna just rearrange it a little bit. You come in here, so you have a little more real estate on the right. Okay, so with this object selected, we're gonna come in here and click on this new button that will add a new material, and we can call this anything. We can say blender coin. Okay, now it has added a principal BSDF shader. Okay, you can come in here, you can add any color to it and it will just reflect. You can play with the metallic value. We'll have to make it metallic because we're making a coin. Metallic, reduce the roughness, and you will see you have something shiny like a coin already. But this is not what we want to do, so I'm going to select principal BSDF and hit backspace. Backspace used to reset it. Okay, doesn't seem to work. We will just undo. Why is backspace not resetting? I don't know. Anyway, what I want to do is I don't want to have like a custom color or anything. I want a, again, if you remember what I wrote on the screen, texture goes into material, and the texture is something I already have here. So I'm going to drag this texture and drop it here into Blender, and the color from this node I'm going to plug it in here. Now you will see that it is all over the place because our UVs are arranged in a certain way, right? How do you make it so that it's not all over the place? So you're going to come back into the UV editing, okay, and you zoom out. Now once you're here, what I want to do is I want to take these front faces and I want to have the Blender logo on those and everything else. So what is currently selected is this ring. I can just scale this down and I have it on the side somewhere here. And here, if you hold down Z pie menu, it goes in the material preview. Okay, so now this ring has this yellow part here. I just need to fix the front and the side. So I'm going to select the front. I'm going to move here. I say GX, move it here. Okay, I'm going to shift right click to this point, and then holding down the period key, this brings up the pivot point menu. Okay, the pivot point menu, I want this to be at the 2D cursor, which is why I brought the 2D cursor here. So now I scale this up kind of like this, so it fills up the whole thing. I'm going to move it to the side a little bit, GX, scale it up a little more, and this is good. So now you see already on the front I have my Blender logo, and I want to have that at the back as well. So I'm going to select the back face here, again do the same thing, GX, move it here, and then scale it up, and you want to try and match it roughly the same, so it's a little bigger in the X. There you go. So now your coin has Blender logo at the front and at the back. If you have something at the back, then you add that at the texture here and then accordingly do it, but we're going to keep this as a simple tutorial. Okay, now the just adding the color, the texture is not going to do it. You want to come into shading, and in your material, right, still in your material, we want to do some important things here. So you want to take the metallic up, as I said in the beginning, because the coin is a metallic, so it needs a metallic texture, and I'm going to take the roughness down, not fully because then that becomes a bit weird, so around here. So that already is looking like a coin. It's a little dark at the moment, but that is because of what we're using here is a scene world, and the scene light. Scene doesn't have any lights. We can come here and we can increase the strength of this. Okay, so it's a little more clear to see. This has got nothing to do with your render, it's just your viewport shading. It's just like a you can say a demo of how it will look. Okay, just a demonstration. We are 15 minutes into the stream already. So now I have done our texture, like I've done UV editing and I've done shading. So let me come here, layout, and I'm going to the material preview, and you see this is what my coin looks like. It's a 3D coin which has the texture I needed on it. Now I need to make it rain. Okay, so how do you make it rain? I was showing this at the beginning of the stream. You know, come in here and drag this section out. Okay, and just keep it a little bit here because I'm going to set the camera in just a minute. I'm going to name, so this went into a collection here, this cylinder that we made. I'm going to press F2 to rename this as coin. Okay, so it's in a separate collection. The advantage of collection is you can just press this button and just enable and disable everything that is in the collection. So I'm going to disable the collection for the moment. I'm going to make a new collection here with C, and I'm going to rename this to simulation. here's where I'm going to do the particle simulation. So how do you do the particle simulation? You basically need a plane, so shift A and add a mesh plane. Okay, now you're going to come into the edit mode and scale this up so it's a little bigger. You say G, Z, bring it up here, and then tab out into the object mode. So with the preferences, I want input, emulate numpad, emulate 3 mouse button, tab pie menu is missing. Yeah, in your key map, tab for pie menu, and spacebar I like to keep it at tools, select mouse as left, save preferences. Yeah, so now you have that. Okay, now to this I want to add a particle simulation. This is where the meat of your tutorial comes in. So let me say in the solid mode so it's a little easier to see. You want to come in here, let me jump to the left. With the mesh plane selected, you want to come in here into this icon here called particles. You click that and you want to come in here and click this plus button. That will add a new particle system to this plane. Okay, now by default it is at an emitter. You want to keep it at an emitter, and before you do anything, just hit the play button here at the bottom. Okay, what you will see is like a snowfall kind of thing happening just by default. This is really the beauty of Blender, is just by clicking one button and then pressing the play button, you already have like something happening. Okay, now the first thing we want to do is we want to make not these halos fall, we want like actual object to fall, which is in our scene, this coin in this case. Okay, you go to the beginning by saying shift left arrow. Okay, so how do you do that? You come in here, you scroll down in your particle settings, still in this tab, you go into the render tab, open this, and from halo change it to object. Okay, and in our object, instance object, you can come in here and select the cylinder from here, or you can select it from the outliner. So select the cylinder from here, and then you will see that your cylinder is falling down, the one cylinder that we made. If you go into the material preview, it is a cylinder which is falling down like this. Now here's a problem, right? It is all in this direction. So what we want to do is we want to come in here and disable object scale. So what that does is, now I will have the scale of the object controlled from here instead of the object's actual scale, and I want to enable rotation because they're all in this weird way. So I'm going to come in here and press this button for rotation. Okay, and inside rotation I want to randomize it, and I want to randomize the phase a little bit. So now you go to the beginning and you will see that the coins are going to fall like this. Okay, now this plane, right, I don't want this plane in my final render, so I'm going to check this button, show emitter, and every time you make a change like this, it will just reset the whole simulation, go to start. Now actually you can come in here and disable the coin collection. That's okay, we're just working with this plane right now. Okay, so now you see already things are falling down like so. Now a few settings you want to play with over here, and it's important to just keep closing these so it doesn't become like a mess. In emission, the number is at 1000. For what I'm looking, it's a little too much what I'm needing, so I'm going to make it 300. You see that there is a little lesser particles coming down. Okay, and the lifetime, so lifetime is 50. So what that means is after 50 frames have passed by, the first coin that went down is gonna die. So if you could track, and by die I mean, you see it just vanishes into nowhere. And if it was like a bubble or a rain situation like that, then it would make sense, but we don't want that to happen. So we're going to take the lifetime to 200. We're already rendering, by the way, 200 frames. So you want to come in here and press 200. So we are only rendering up until 200 frames, which is the lifetime, and the end also, frame start and frame end. So that does is we can play with the seed to get like a random kind of distribution, but that is okay. So this is how your coins are falling down. Okay, now before I do anything else, I want to actually set up the render. So you're going to come in here and shift A, anywhere in the viewport you can say shift A camera. So that will add a camera here. I'm going to say Alt R, Alt G to bring the camera at the dead center. Alt R, Alt G clears location and rotation. So with the camera selected, you see GY, bring it back. How do you know Y is this? Because you see at the gizmo here. So Y is the green one, X is the red one, and Z is the blue one. So I know I have to go back in Y. So GY, bring it here, and then RX90 will rotate it this way. So now over here on the left side, I'm gonna again use the pie menu and go into the view camera. So this is my camera view. That's what my camera is seeing. I'm gonna select this border here. Okay, then I'll come into this button here for the camera data, and over here inside viewport display, I'm gonna make this passport out 1. So what that does is it makes this fully black on the outside. Okay, so now you see on the left side you have your camera, and the right side is your viewport where things are falling down. So your coins are already raining. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and play with these particle settings to make like fine tune this rain to our liking. Okay, firstly I feel what I want to do is I want to have a little more rotation happen. So I'm going to come in here and check this button called dynamic. I mean, it seems to do something nice. Inside angular velocity, I'm going to give it an angular velocity because I want it to spin on its axis. So I'm going to give it an angular velocity of maybe 3, 2 or 3. Okay, and now if I go to the start and play, you'll see that the coins are actually spinning on their own axis. Okay, one more thing is because it's going a little too fast in my opinion, so I'm gonna make it like slower. So we're gonna come in here into velocity, and the normal velocity I'm gonna make it 0.3 or something. So normal velocity is basically the normal of the plane. So this is the direction of the normal, that's where the velocity is coming. Again, I feel it's a little too fast still, so I'm gonna make it 0.04. So then it's like it's still a little fast. So then what we can do is we can come down here into field weights, and we can make the gravity a little lesser. That will help. What happens if we make the velocity 0? It still falls down because gravity is still acting on it. We can make it negative, that will make it go up. Object velocity. So this is what we have so far. Okay, coins are falling like this, and one thing I want to do is I want to come and select my camera, come into the camera again, the data properties here, and I want to make the focal length, right, this I want to adjust this such that the focal length is at like 120 or something, so it looks a little nicer that way. And yeah, so you see what is happening on this side is because the clipping is a little too low or high, something is off with the clipping here. Man, I really shouldn't have reset factory settings. This is becoming a nightmare. Anyway, we're gonna leave it at that. Let me just make the other render stuff. Okay, so when I add a backdrop, say shift A mesh plane, just gonna put a simple plane, say RX90 GUI, bring it back, go in that mode, scale it up. Okay, we're gonna come into this thing here to add a material and click on new. Let's call this backdrop. Now you don't need to go to the shader editor for this. I'm just gonna do it here, and I'll make it like a dark grayish material and take the roughness a little down, something like that. Or maybe we can make it like bluish because the Blender logo is orange, so it kind of goes well. Now one thing you'll see is that in your render view, right, everything is very dark. This here is a material preview, by the way, and this is the material preview, and this is the solid preview. The render on the side is completely dark. That's because our world, if you look at this, box here, this world has just a color, a gray color on it, and the strength of it is at 1, which is not ideal. What we want to use is HDRIs. So you want to click on this color button here and go into environment texture, and you open any HDRI. So HDRI you can get from polyhaven.com. These are a few that I've already downloaded. Anyone you can use this Brown Studio. So automatically you have this kind of a situation, which if you were to, I don't know why that is happening, but yeah, if you see this now, what this has done is it's added this kind of a studio into my Blender scene, and the light that is coming from this HDRI, high definition range, high dynamic range image is being used to light our scene. However, we don't want to see this background here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to come here into our render properties, scroll all the way down until you see film and check transparent. So now you will have the light coming from the HDRI but not the actual HDRI. Okay, so that does a bit of lighting. What I can do is I can make the HDRI strength to, let's say, 2, so it's a little brighter. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So you play from the start, you have your coins falling down. What I want to do is I want to select my particle system. Now it's about tweaking it to your liking, right? I'm going to come into the render and increase the object scale because I feel they're a little too small. So now we have, or maybe it's a little too much now. Okay, now the next thing I wanted to show is what if you want your coins to not just fall straight down, you want them to go in a certain direction, right? There are many ways to do it, like you can play with the velocity and everything here, but an effective way to do that is using force fields. So this was supposed to be a beginner tutorial and I don't know if I'm doing any justice to that, but let's see. Let me know if it's not beginner at all and I'll try like toning it down again. But you come in here, say shift a force field and add a wind. Okay, so you will see at the bottom of your at the middle of your viewport is a wind kind of symbol which has been added. So you say GX, move it out here, GC, bring it down, and if you now play your simulation, nothing's going to change really because this wind that you've added is at a very low force. So you're going to come into physics here and you come in here and make this like 10. Okay, so that will change that a little bit. Now you play it from the start and you will see that your particles are actually going up, right? So 10 is a little too much. We're going to make it like 2, and importantly I'm going to say RX or RY to rotate it slightly like this. Now if I play it, you will see that your particles are falling down but they're going in a diagonal direction. Okay, and now if I increase the strength to 3 and play, you can go even more in that direction. So now you have this kind of a nice effect. And what if you want to like balance it out on the other side? So you select this force field, shift D, X, bring it here, and you say control MX. Okay, that's gonna mirror it in the X direction. And for this I'm going to keep the strength at like 2. So now there is a field which is coming here and there's a field which is throwing it there. So there's a bit of variation happening. Okay, I'm feeling like the scale is a little too much. So you take the scale a little down. Okay, now that is it, that is good. We have our coins like falling and shining and it's all nice. However, one thing that I'm still lacking is it doesn't feel very high quality even though we have like a good focal length of 120. So what will make it instantly look very professional is having depth of field. And so those who are used to a camera, they will know depth of field is like setting up a camera in such a way that you have a shallow depth of field means things in the background get blurred out. So we're going to emulate that inside Blender's camera. How do you do that? With your 3D cursor in the center of the scene, I'm going to say shift A, empty, and add a plane axis. I'm going to scale this up. We're going to rename this plane axis to focus. Okay, I'm going to select this camera, and again, oh, I keep jumping here for some reason. Again, go into the data properties, and over here you want to check this box, depth of field, and for the focus object you want to select the focus that we just added. Okay, now you want to keep an eye out here on your render. So the focus is where our focus is, like that's where the focus will be. I'm going to take the focus, actual focus object, and move it a little in the Y so that these coins are in focus, the ones here, and the coins behind are out of focus, maybe a little more towards here. And now with the camera selected, basically select the outer boundary of this f-stop, right? You want to take this f-stop value all the way down. So now at 0.1 it is like too high, too much of focus, like completely out of focus, things in the background. And so f.8 or f.6 is nice, you get like a nice bokeh that way. And you f2.8 is kind of common, or f1.8, but I think I'm going to keep it a little higher, so f.7 or something. And now automatically your coins are falling, is the whole scene is looking a lot more cinematic. Okay, and now from this point on is just about how you want to experiment with things. Now just to give you like a teaser of what more you can do with the particle system here, if you come in here, we haven't even explored most of these things. For example, physics, right? There is this crazy thing here called Brownian. If you make this, increase this value, Brownian will just make things go wacky. It's a little hard to predict and stuff, but it does some weird things. So you can experiment with these sliders, are meant to be experimented with. Just experiment to your heart's content. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you make coins rain inside of Blender. That was the first part. 3145 is where we're switching to After Effects. I want to quickly show this one little thing that I did today in After Effects, and then we can wrap this live stream up. The scary part, the very scary part of this is I don't know if the audio is going out fine. It should. I mean, there's no reason for audio to not be going out fine. Yesterday was a bit of an experimentation, so there was that happened yesterday, but there was a bit of learning to that, so no worries. How do you make a paper crumple effect? So what I'm talking about is this effect. Okay, so person is talking or whatever, you have a media and you just crumple down in. So what I've basically done here is there is a, just ignore this thing, okay, ignore that, paper crumple one. This is an MP4. Okay, you go to YouTube and you say paper crumple effect green screen and you get this. All right, once you get that, on this you want to come in here and apply the key light effect inside After Effects. And with the key light effect applied, let me solo this. So with the key light effect applied, what happens is this green goes away. Okay, it's like your key light remover. Then you have your subject here. The subject is here. Okay, the one on the top. To that subject, what you want to do is you want to select track matte to this layer, one of these. So layer 2 of track matte to this, and alpha matte. Okay, not inverted, alpha matte, track matte. So what happens is if I just turn this off and I don't have no matte, okay, so this is how your this is how it is. Okay, if I track matte it to this paper crumple, what is happening is this footage or whatever your media is, that has to be in this pre-comp, the subject pre-comp. Come on, open whatever it is, it will close as if, you know, it's being like paper crumple, but it doesn't look like paper crumple. So the simplest fix here is you take this paper crumple, you duplicate it, and importantly you scale it up. So if you see the scale of this is at 123, if I keep it at 123, it will not do anything, it will just be the same thing. So you scale it slightly up so that you see the edges. Okay, and one important thing that I've done is, you know, to have that effect on the subject, I've added a layer style drop shadow, so then it looks a lot like an actual effect. So you add the drop shadow and then you get that keep paper crumple effect. Okay, that's what I want to show. And yeah, so that is it for today's documentation. I'm going to wrap my stream here. The thumbnail I'm not working on right now. Should I work on the thumbnail here? Because the stream gets unnecessarily long because I've spent way too much time on the thumbnail. I'm gonna work on the thumbnail just like after I stop the stream. So that's what it is. Fumbling today. That's it for today's documentation. Thanks so much for being in the code. A very hectic week, not because work was there, it's always been there, but having to live stream every single day whatever I'm learning and documenting it just adds that, because I'm also learning so much of the live stream part of things. Now the audio sounds amazing, the video sounds amazing, which is all good. Video looks amazing, and I'm just curious to see how far I can go with the daily live stream. Only God can tell. So I'll catch you in the next session. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru